Hello YouTubes, welcome back to James Recommends. I really should have given you guys this episode while a lot of you were on Christmas break or had some time off for the holidays, because this week we're going to talk about Lords of Xulima. And Lords of Xulima is one of those mammoth epic RPGs. And I'll confess, I haven't gotten to the end of it. I will probably never get to the end of it in my life because it's one of those things you can easily dump 60, 80 hours in, no problem. And if you like CRPGs, if you like old school CRPGs, things like Eye of the Beholder, then you should take a look at Lords of Xulima, because while not wildly innovative in any ways, it really modernizes a lot of those old Eye of the Beholder type games and delivers on it quite well, actually. First off, you have to know that this has got that grand epic lore. They've spent a lot of time building up the lore of the world, and while not perfect, the narrative is more engaging than you get in a lot of turn-based RPGs. And the mechanics themselves are well refined. The game has a ton of character classes. I think it has 10 character classes, of which you get to choose 6. It's got just a horde of skills. Choosing what skills you pick as you level up actually becomes a really tough choice, because every character will have more skills available than skill points by a large margin, and so you kind of have to pick what direction your character's going to go. So even if you had 2 wizards in your party, they could be radically different or play radically differently. The combat itself is turn-based RPG combat. You've seen a lot of these pieces in other games. On one side of the screen, you have the turn order for all the characters. In the bottom half of the screen, you have your characters, and they're lined up front row, back row. There are 8 slots. You got 6 characters. You have to sort of arrange them strategically. Positioning matters because the guys on the left can't attack enemies on the far right. The guys in the back can't attack any enemies unless they have the right weapon, and unless they have bows, they can't hit the guys in the back row at all, the enemies in the back row. And so there's a lot of playing around with this. A lot of the skills and abilities give you the opportunity to manipulate the turn order somewhat, and a lot of your choices in terms of how you level up your character, how you build up their stats, what skills they have, will further affect that. And your placement affects all your AoE stuff. So there's actually a lot of depth to combat, which is otherwise deceptively simple. There's a great deal of min-maxing you can do and strategizing you can do within the combat, which itself is strong. Then there's the leveling system, as I said, tons of abilities, tons of skills, but the thing I found most interesting is throughout the world, your main character has a default character class of Explorer, and one of your abilities is Alchemy. And as you wander about the world, you can collect alchemical components. And while you do build up skills through leveling up, and while you do build up stats through leveling up, another way to really build up skills and stats is through this alchemy. Rather than having some confusing potion system, it's just there's a ton of these different components, and when you get the right components, you'll open up your bag and it will tell you that you have enough to up one character, and it's all permanent stuff, right? This is the great thing. You can up one character's fire resist by 5, right? And so you have to think about how you use your alchemy components, and you're always searching the world. There's always sort of goodies to collect. The system is tight enough. I've always been short for gold, which is something that I personally like in RPGs. I feel like too many RPGs do it poorly, but then again, who knows? As you go further on, this may not be true. There's a system which also drains gold out of your pool by requiring that you have food at all times. You don't necessarily need it, but if you don't have food, you not only get debuffed, but you can't rest and regain hit points. And almost every fight that you participate in, especially if you're pushing yourself, will do a great deal of damage, if not kill one of your party members. And you have a substantive debuff on your party member unless they rest for a great period of time. And you pretty much want to go into every fight full health. The game's balanced for you entering almost every fight full health. And so you'll need to find places where you can safely rest, and you'll need to rest, which consumes a bunch of your food, which takes a lot of money, or scavenging the wild to get more of. Additionally, it's got a very interesting combination of enemies on the map. So think Mystic Quest style, you can see all the enemies, and that's great because it allows them to create a lot of sort of puzzles of how you get around some of these enemies. There'll be enemies that you'll see early on, and you run into it and you'll just be like, you get wiped the floor with. And there's no way you can fight them. And so either you go and figure out some way to grind and come back to them and beat them, or you come back to them much later because you found a way around them. And that feels very satisfying in and of itself. But they've coupled that with areas that have both that and hidden enemies which will ambush you. In these ambush situations, they've limited the number of ambushes. You actually clear out the number of ambushes, so if you want to explore that area, you can. And when you clear out all the ambushes in the area, you get a special bonus reward. So there's something for that grinder and min-maxer in you as well. And the amount of exploration, the amount of stuff to find in the world is a kick. There's a lot of it if you love just finding new loot and looking for all those little places in the map, that skeleton on the ground or that one loose rock. It's got that. If you are looking for a vast and expansive world, it's hard to find a vaster, more expansive world. They've gone back to the old sort of 3/4 view, 2D, it's not really 2D, but 2D perspective where content is cheap to produce, so they've just made so much world to explore. And as you sort of break through the fog of war, and as you start piece by piece being able to come back to these sections of map that you couldn't get through before, or that was locked to you, that you didn't have the ways to progress, and are able to solve, it's a very satisfying experience. So overall, this may not be for everybody, but if you're one of those people who likes big, expansive RPGs, if you like RPGs with a lot of mechanics, if you like RPGs with a combat system that actually allows you to do better or worse in it, rather than just the sort of old Final Fantasy, everybody hit the fight button unless you need a magical spell. Lords of Xulima delivers on all that. It also delivers a decent narrative, it delivers a just huge world, interesting alchemy system, interesting leveling system, a lot of moments where you find yourself with choices that are genuinely tough to make in a mechanical sense. Not so much in a narrative sense, although I have heard that it has a lot of narrative branching to it. I haven't been able to tell how much that's true. I will leave that up to you guys in the comments to tell me how much I missed. But yeah, if that's what you're looking for, if you're looking for a big, expansive CRPG this week, well then this week James recommends to you Lords of Xulima. See y'all next week.